Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome back to another video. Brandon and I are here to report on the second game in this very incredible series against the Mariners. It is a very interesting series as the first game did not go in our favor, but this is what the series is for. We can bounce back from this. We know we can bounce back from it, but let's recap game one and talk about what we're looking forward to in game two. Brandon, let's get your thoughts on this matter.
Yeah, the fear of a lot of Blue Jays fans going into this series was that the Mariners starting pitching is really good. I mean, they have a great bullpen. They obviously have a really good high-powered offense. Their starting pitching is their trump card. And man, did we see it. George Springer hit a leadoff home run in game one against Bryce Miller, and that was it. There was one other hit from Anthony Santander later in the game, and that was it. That was the offense for the Blue Jays. And obviously, that's just not going to get it done. Obviously, Cal Raleigh hit a home run. Jorge Polanco had a couple RBIs, and even in a low-scoring affair, that's all the Mariners needed. And it's just again, the Blue Jays offense is high power. We saw it against the Yankees. I mean, they can slug. I mean, there's no worries that the Blue Jays offense is suddenly going to go cold. But it's just the Mariners pitching is better than the Yankees pitching. It's just, I mean, that's just this, state of things. And so, and again, the Mariners, because they have Kyle Raleigh, they have Julio Rodriguez, Randy Rosarino. I mean, they have a lot of good offensive players. They can turn things around in a hurry on their side as well. So it's just a tough situation the Blue Jays find themselves in, especially because Kevin Gausman did pitch a really good start. Now, again, that being said, it's just game one. Obviously, losing home field advantage in this way does stink because obviously the Blue Jays have been so good at home this year. But it's just game one of a 7 game series. This is just the nature of playoff baseball. They really got to come back in game two, win on their home turf, and then, get the series to Seattle tied up. But, it all's not lost. It's definitely a concerning development that, Mariners pitching shut down this offense so thoroughly.
I think if you also pay attention, I mean, I don't know how many of our viewers are, Tigers or Mariners fans, but if you paid attention to the games between the Mariners and the Tigers, for the most part, they weren't that too far apart in most of their games. It was 3-2 or 1-3 for most of these games. So I don't think I want to sound the alarm bells just yet for a 1-3 game. If we were like 8-1, which did happen in other Tigers and Mariners games, and I'm going to knock on wood here, then I'd be worried. But again, like you said, we saw the Blue Jays go up against the Yankees and the Yankees lost. So I'm very confident that the Blue Jays are going to come back from this. And again, I also am going to say that we went up going up against the Yankees. We were not on our home turf and we were on fire. So it might just be that, look, our home turf might not be the place to be right now. And we have one more game tonight to kind of look at where we stand with that. We might turn it around, and I hope we do. Um, the other thing, like you said, is that the Mariners pitching staff is incredible. We cannot deny that. And they've been shutting down our main players like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I
Mhm.
think that, and I've said this before about many different teams, you have a day after playing a team to really learn from your mistakes and come back after learning from a horrible upset like we had yesterday. So I think that's what's going to happen tonight. Again, just a prediction, but I think the Blue Jays are very smart like that.
Yeah. I mean, again, it helps to see, relievers, and obviously because the Blue Jays pitching staff was able to keep the game close, they got to see some of the Mariners high leverage relievers like Andres Munoz, the great closer that they have. So that only helps in a 7 game series. And, obviously, like you said, the Blue Jays hadn't played at their home field since, they beat the Yankees in game four. Obviously it would have been nice to, to defend in game one. Hopefully they can do so in game two, but 3 games in Seattle, hopefully coming up, I mean, that's a lot of chances to, get the series back to Toronto later on if needed. So again, it's one of those things where it's just like the first game feels so important in a series. And it does. I mean, it shifts the momentum, it shifts the win probabilities of the series, but this is not like this thing's not over. I mean, game two, Trey Savage is going to pitch. He was unbelievable against the Yankees in that series. Obviously, Logan Gilbert's going to counter him for the Mariners, who is also a really, really good starting pitcher. Again, that's a theme with the Mariners. But I mean, again, it's just one of those things where you the Blue Jays need to come out hot in game two. Obviously, seeing something from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would be nice. Really anyone in the lineup besides George Springer, just, getting going, getting momentum, getting guys on base, creating traffic on the base paths. There just wasn't enough of that in game one. And again, with how good the Mariners pitching staff is and their defense and their run prevention game with Cal Raleigh behind the plate, it's just really difficult to, if guys aren't stringing things together, to produce anything. So again, it's going to be a different series than it was against the Yankees. Obviously, the Mariners are a lot more fundamentally defensively sound. They're not as, dependent on, big swings like the Yankees were. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, game one was disappointing, but as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. How are you feeling going into game two? You expect the Blue Jays to bounce back here, defend their home turf? Are you excited for the series to jump to Seattle in game three and four and potentially five? Let us know your thoughts. And as always, we'll try to respond to every single one.